Now, what have been some of the barriers to improving the relationship? And I think one of them is that both sides still have a rather different understanding of what an improved relationship would look like. A recurring problem, I think, has been the disparity between where Russia fits into U.S. priorities and where the U.S., at least until recently, fits into Russian priorities. America has loomed larger in Russian priorities, again, at least until recently, I would say, than vice versa. Russia is a very important, I would say, second-order priority for the U.S., and yet it has the ability to have a major influence on whether we can accomplish our first-order priority goals. And the Russians understand that, and again, it comes back to this equal partnership of unequals, and it makes it difficult sometimes to interact with them. Until recently, I think we've been seen in Russia as the one country that could guarantee Russia its status as a great power, as a major world player. But I think Russia has moved away from that now because President Putin's idea of what drives the world has changed. And I think Russia now looks upon the US, as it does on Europe, as a declining power. And I think that's changed the calculations for Putin. Putin's major goals, and I think he's really achieved them recently for the last 10 years at least, have been, first of all, to ensure that Russia has a seat at the table on all major international decisions. Russia should have a voice. It should maybe have a veto power also at these on these important issues. And he's always wanted to ensure that the United Nations Security Council is the main institution that will decide these issues. Putin also wants to prevent the further enlargement of NATO and the European Union. I think at the moment he's achieved that too. I wouldn't say he's achieved it. The European Union isn't interested in enlarging because of its own problems, and even what it's offering Ukraine isn't membership, right? It's something far short of that. And Putin's major goal now is to focus on the creation of a Eurasian Union, of a closer integration between Russia and the other post-Soviet states, so that this bloc, if you like, could then interact with the US and EU. Now, US foreign policy goals, particularly since President Obama came to power, have focused on withdrawal from Iraq, stabilizing Afghanistan prior to the exit of the NATO forces, on counterterrorism, on containing Iran's nuclear program, global non-proliferation, and again, the transition away from autocracy in the Arab world. And Russia has been a partner on all of these issues, and we cannot achieve what we want in any of these fields without cooperating with Russia. So again, we do need, and we are fated to cooperate with Russia as we go forward. What you see today, however, is Russia defining itself as an alternative civilization. And that's why I say Putin no longer expresses interest in being integrated with the West. Russia presents itself as a status quo power. It presents itself as a country that supports the absolute sovereignty of other countries, more or less. You could ask about Ukraine. And it presents the United States as a 21st century version of the Soviet Union. In fact, Russian officials sometimes say that. We're the ones that want to go around doing regime change around the world and installing governments in our own image. That's what the Russians say, and that's how they appeal to the outside world and say that the US is the one that's trying to destabilize the global order. And the other message that we've heard very much from Putin recently is that Orthodox Christianity is the true harbinger of traditional Christian values. He said that quite often recently. That Western Christianity, particularly Protestantism, has lost its way. It's immoral because it supports things like same-sex marriage and all of the other issues that are lumped together there. And the other message from Putin and his colleagues has been that traditional Christian values are very similar to traditional Muslim values, and that's very important in a country where you have, like Russia, where you have all of these different ethnic groups and quite a lot of religious tension. And I heard Mr. Putin a couple of weeks ago on one of the Sunday talk shows saying, and this is vis-a-vis now the legislation, the LGBT legislation, 70 countries in the world, he said, have legislation like this, and in 7 of them they execute people. But his message was that, you know, we're not out of line. You, the United States and Europe and Canada, Australia, a few other countries, you're the ones that are out of line. And you're going to hear this message much more, that Russia is now the harbinger, if you like, of a new international conservative movement.